Welcome to Hama Military Airport in western Syria, and welcome aboard my MiG-21. The mission for today is going to be a bombing strike against a vehicle repair depot in an industrial park on the west side of the city of Idlib. Idlib province, at the time that this video is set, the time that this mission is set, and to a large degree now as well, is occupied by an organization called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a sort of umbrella organization of several Islamist militant groups formed around a nucleus of Jabhat Fatah al-Sham, formerly Jabhat al-Nusra, which is a Syrian offshoot of Al-Qaeda. Confused yet? Anyway, let's step into my office. What I've decided to do for this mission is I've been sort of flim-flamming in some previous videos that I've done about how much of the startup and shutdown and sort of ancillary non-combat procedures I want to show. For this mission, we're going to do everything from startup to shutdown, and I'll set the video up with a series of chapters so that you can skip over things like the startup, should you wish. But let's get stuck into the aforementioned startup. I'm going to be using this checklist here, which is made by someone whose name I am not even remotely capable of pronouncing, but a link will be in the description, and I do heartily recommend it. It covers everything quite nicely in a fairly concise fashion. So, let's get started by turning the inverters and battery heat on, and then the battery itself on, and the DC generator as well. Fire extinguisher is here, and we will also turn on the radio, and I'm not going to bother configuring it. I'm not going to use ATC because my pilot will be speaking English despite being Syrian, which is just weird, and yeah, I'm going to just avoid it. And the SARPP-12, which is the flight data recorder, will go on as well. That's right here. And fuel pumps will go on. And we'll start the APU, unlock the throttle, and crack it just a little bit, and hit the engine start button and wait for it to start spooling up. There it goes. All right. So that'll do. And once that's spooling up, we'll turn on our gyroscopic instruments down here. Turn on the AC generator, and I'll whack these dispenser systems on down here too to make sure the flares are working. And navigation stuff can all go on. That's basically this row of circuit breakers here. Basically everything on this right side panel can go on now. The only things I'm going to leave off, so we have our armament here. I'm going to leave this switch, which is the missile and rocket launch, off, because that effectively functions as something akin to a master arm. And the other thing, we have our gun sight stuff down here. I'm going to leave the gun camera off, because as you can see, if I turn it on, if you look here, the gun camera sort of whacks up in front of the gun sight here and kind of gets in the way, so I'm not going to bother with it. So, apart from that, we'll get our IFF and RWR all turned on as well. We'll align the HSI here. And at that point, we can shut the canopy, shut the lid and weld it, lock and sealed. That's all good. Flaps can go to takeoff. Trim should be neutral by default. And let's see, I already turned on all this stuff here earlier, so I was sort of going a little bit off checklist there, but whatever. We'll turn the radar on to standby. We're probably not going to use it, but whatever. So, and then our pitot heat and emergency pitot heat will go on. How strictly necessary that is given the heat in this part of the world, I don't know, but it will be colder up at altitude, so there you go. I'm not going to bother with the lights because it's daytime and there's a war on. Make sure our nose wheel is unlocked, so it's in the vertical position, which is a bit confusing, but the weird and wonderful logic to this cockpit where it exists is not always the most straightforward, shall we say. And apart from that, the only other thing I'll do before we taxi is get the RSBN set up, since I'm going to be doing a little bit of radio navigation here. So the channel for the airport we're at in Hama is channel 29. I won't bother using the landing system, but we'll turn on the range and distance information and switch our radio compass over to RSBN. And it should point at the station, which should be like over in the center of the field there somewhere. Yep, and give us a distance of a bit less than 1 kilometer. Yeah, that appears to make sense. And I will turn the volume down so we're not listening to that infernal beeping for the entire mission. And I think we're about ready to taxi. So, yeah, I'll just double check that the checklist is complete. And we'll start rolling here. The runway is just over there, so it'll be a very short taxi. Alright, just rolling up to the runway here. I'm going to roll to a stop and hold short and run through the before takeoff checklist to make sure everything's squared away before we roll. So, before takeoff, landing light off. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be using any lights anyway because this is war. Landing gear lock. It's going to be off so that we can actually raise the gear handle, and we will remember to return it to the neutral position so that we don't completely drain the pneumatic system during the flight and discover we have no brakes when we get back. Pretty much everyone who's flown this aircraft at DCS has done that at least once, so yeah. Navigation light, we won't bother with. Flaps set for takeoff, blah, 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 and I'll lock the nose wheel once we're lined up. So, let's get going here. Good. Nose wheel's gone off in a funny direction. It often kind of seems to do that with the differential braking, but what are you gonna do? So, left. And just make sure that nose wheel is reasonably straight. Lock it, double check that flaps are set, gear handle fixator is off. Alright, I think we're good to go. Punch it! And the nose wheel's kind of running away a little bit here, but we should accelerate pretty quickly and then the rudder should become effective and we won't have to worry about the nose wheel anyway. So, airspeed's alive, 200. 250, I'll start to ease the stick back so that she can sort of lift off when she's ready. We're pretty heavy today. And there we go. Gear up. Alright, gear is up, 3 red. Gear handle to neutral, fixator on, and flaps will come up now that we're through 400. And through 500, I think we can head out a burner, and we'll climb out to the north and head for Idlib. And the only other thing I'll do, actually, while we're still here, I'll actually run through the after takeoff checklist just in case I've forgotten anything. So, gear is up and off. Flaps are up. Pitch says to climb at 15 degrees, but we're so heavy, I don't think we're quite in a good position to do that. And afterburner, technically the checklist says we should have kept it on up until 600, so I'm actually going to level off and accelerate a little bit so that we can climb. And I will actually level off here and run through our combat checks as well right away now that we're airborne, just so that I don't forget. And it's not on the list, but I'm going to turn the gun sight on, since that would be pretty helpful. We're going to be using the gyroscopic bombing system, so we definitely need the gun sight. So, missile and rocket launch will go on, and gun power is on, and we'll load the gun, just in case. Tactical release is right here, so that's basically our bomb drop arming there. And our countermeasures cover will be open, and I'll actually test it. Put out a couple flares, not too many because we don't have a whole lot. I am anticipating a AAA and manpad threat in the vicinity of the target. I say anticipating. I made this mission, I put some stingers down there, so we definitely need to be careful. But anyway, that's our combat check complete. We are pretty much good to carry on towards the target. Alright, so down there is the city of Idlib on there. And our target should be in an industrial park on the west side, so the left side relative to us. So I'll start keeping my eyes peeled for that, and we'll make sure we're all ready to go here. So our loadout, which I guess I didn't mention before, Consists of 4 FAB-250s, so 250 kilogram general purpose bombs. And I'm going to drop them in pairs so that I can make 2 runs. That way if I miss on the first one, I can make another one. The gyro bomb aiming system in the MiG-21 is reasonably accurate, but that's going to be offset by the fact that I'm not very experienced with it. I generally prefer to carry rockets, because they're just kind of more inherently accurate for the purposes I'd want to use them for, but the Syrian Air Force appear to mostly use FAB-250s, and domestically produced ones that tend to look a little rough around the edges. Like, go look at some pictures of them, they tend to have some rust and uneven welding on them, but in general they function. So, I believe I see the building in the industrial park down there, so I will respond to that and report target in sight. So, warehouse building in southwest corner of industrial park, west side of the city. Target is confirmed, cleared to attack. So, I'll make sure everything's ready. So for bombs, weapon selector, I've got pylons selected that I want. We'll do 3 and 4 first, which are the outer 2. We will go into launch mode, bombing mode, and automatic. Gunsight will stay in gyro mode. So tactical release we'll verify is switched on, and all our pylons and everything are turned on. And we should be good. So I'll probably try and make my dive as steep as possible for the sake of accuracy. And I'll be putting out plenty of flares on the way in and out. I'll be coming off target to the right. Turkish airspace is just over there to the northwest of us, so we don't want to be going into that. There have been a number of shoot-down incidents in this area. The Turks have shot down a number of Syrian aircraft, which they at least allege violated their airspace. So. Alright, I think we're about ready to roll in here. So keep it nice and steep. Power to idle, roll in. It's actually not as steep as it looks, but whatever. Place the net over the target. Put out a round of flares. And once our pipper comes into view, we'll put it on the target, drop our bombs, and pull out. Ooh, little right rudder here, I'm drifting a bit. Okay, on target, bombs away. And gently, gently, gently here, because we don't want to rip the other bombs off their racks. And watch for man pads. Ooh, that was one! And I guess we decoyed it. Okay. Well, that's what the flares are for. Oh boy, so that looked like it came from this residential area down here. Maybe he's on one of the rooftops. Okay, he lies. I know he's on one of the rooftops.
MiG.
نكست ها؟ لا عم لكن نكست يا زلمه. عيني نكست يا الله اكبر.
طبت علينا ولا وين؟
لا ما طبت.
الله اكبر.
Alright, building's been hit and it's on fire. And we're reporting target destroyed. I kind of want to drop my other 2 bombs to ensure total destruction of the target, though. So I may come back around. I'll have to think on that as I make my little egress here. What's our altitude like now? Not that high. I'm going to hit the burner for a little bit as we climb. Now that I know where that man pad is, I can keep my eyes open for it. But it also makes me a bit nervous about the idea of being in burner any more than I have to, so we'll see about that. But yeah, I've been trying to stay above, well, I flew here at 6,000 meters, but trying to stay above 4,000, just to stay out of the shoulder launch SAM envelope as much as possible. But obviously we have to get lower when we drop our bombs, so that be the way it is. Alright, getting set up for my second run here. I think we're just about ready. Gonna make it as steep as I can, because we can pull out a lot harder on this one, because we don't need to worry about ripping our bombs off. So, power to idle, rolling in, putting out some preventative flares. A little high on the AO8 there, that was a little bit slovenly, but whatever. And more flares going out, keeping my eyes peeled on that residential area. And there's the pipper, it's not quite on, whatever, bombs away. And watch that area like a hawk. And I'm out of flares now. Okay. So, alright, my last few flares decoyed that second SAM. I think I have had enough fun trying to cheat death today. Let's get the hell out of here. Bugger, bugger, bugger. Out of burner. Out of burner. Okay, you missed. Ooh. Alright, he'll be reloading now. Emergency burner. Climb, climb. Before he reloads, let's get out of range. And watch that area. Oh my god. Alright, we're off to the south. Turkish airspace is over there, so we don't need to worry about busting that. Alright, above 4,000 meters. Keep climbing. We have the fuel. And get that area back into view just in case. And not to jinx anything, I think we're clear, so add a burner, resume a normal-ish climb, and we'll head back to base. It's already punched up in the RSBN, so we can head straight back to Hama. We'll just keep climbing. We'll level off at 6,000 again. Alright. I think we're good. The Russian air base at Khmeimim is over there somewhere in Latakia province. Obviously, Idlib province is basically where we are now. We came from the vicinity of Homs, which is south. So you have the desert out to the west, the Euphrates side, and then schooling on down into Iraq. I'm starting to get a feel for the geography of Syria as I've blown more missions here. But at any rate, that's our mission complete as intended, and we're going to head back to base. Alright, we are descending towards Hama. I think what I'm going to do here is set myself up onto a nice super casual left base onto runway 09 if I can get down and decelerate it in time. I'll run through our approach items here. Landing light, not applicable. Nav light, yeah, whatever. None of that's really super relevant right now, so basically the only thing to know is we get the gear out at 500 and set flaps to takeoff, and then set flaps for landing at 380. Fly the approach at about 340, 350, and don't chop the power prior to touching down, because that's a good way to slam it into the runway. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So speed's actually back through 500 now. I'm going to get the gear out for the sake of the drag and set flaps for takeoff. I'll bring the air brakes in, since we'll have plenty of drag with the gear and flaps. So gear down, 3 green, flaps up for takeoff. And I'll keep the speed around 400 probably until we roll out onto final, then I'll set flaps for landing. And you need quite a lot of power actually to maintain speed on the approach in the MiG-21, so don't be afraid to push it up. Okay, that's a little bit much speed, but whatever. And I'll just see how well I can judge my base turn to final. Pretty tight circuit, but whatever, I should be able to manage it. We might be rolling out straight on the final here. Alright, flap set for landing. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty hot approach, but whatever. Ooh. Bit of a sink rate. And rolling out onto a very short final. And I'll just gently let her down, start to flare, ease the power back slightly, and we're down, power's off, parachute out, air brakes out, and I'll get on the brakes a little bit, but generally the parachute can do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to deceleration in the MiG-21. And that nose wheel's starting to wobble a little bit. Are we going to make this taxiway? Yeah, I think we can. unlock the nose gear, and come left here, and we'll vacate the runway. And then I'll run through the after landing items, and we'll taxi in and shut down. Alright, we'll just coast to a stop here, and I will drop the parachute. So that's all good. After landing, drag chute jettisoned, nose wheel brake off, landing light, yeah, I'm not going to bother with the lights, flaps up, landing gear lock on, and I'll actually peek outside to verify I brought the speed brakes in. I did not. Oops. Anyway, in they go. And that'll do for now. So we'll taxi right back to the hardened hangar where we started. Shouldn't be too long to taxi. We stopped fairly quickly on the runway. Yeah. Hang a left here. This is a taxiway. It has markings that vaguely resemble a runway. It might be a disused runway, but we have the blue lights at the side, which indicates taxiway. And obviously on the map, it looks like one as well, everything like that. A few items I think I might run through while we taxi in. Actually, I'm going to turn the radar off. We didn't use it. There you go. Yeah, I'll run through the items on here that I can do while we're still taxiing. Why not? So, pitot heat. An emergency pitot heat can go off. Missile, rocket heat, and pylons can all go off. So that's all good. Pylons power, yeah, I already did that. Gun sight is off. IFF can go off, and probably the RWR as well. And that's about all we could do for now, so I'll wait until we've actually taxied to our hard stand. And then we'll do the shutdown properly, in inverted commas. Any viewers of my Brezhnev Incident series may fondly, or otherwise, recall the escapades of trying to get the shutdown procedure precisely correct, but, I mean, doesn't matter too much, really. It just kind of shut down the engine, shut all the switches off, and the order is probably not the most important thing in the world, but for the sake of completeness, I am going to try to get it right. So, our hardened hangar is just up here, and it has a system so that we can taxi around it and park in the same direction so that we're facing in the direction we'd want to taxi the next time we take off, which would be pretty soon. At the peak of operations, Syrian MiG-21s, 23s, Su-22s, we're flying 3 and 4 sorties a day. So, yeah, busy bees they were, and possibly still are. The level of hostility appears to have toned down somewhat since the ceasefire came in Idlib, where we just were, and also since Islamic State were effectively defeated in the field, or at least driven into irrelevant enclaves out in the desert. Which does remind me, actually, I do wish, and who knows, it might happen someday, that this map fully included the city of Deir ez-Zor. Because apparently the Syrian Air Force's MiG-21s flew quite a few missions there while it was still under siege by Islamic State from 2014 to 17. Anyway, pretty confined space, so I'll pay at least a little bit of attention and roll to a stop before we use all of our brake stuff. I'll lock the nose gear and we'll get stuck into the shutdown procedure. So I already shut all this stuff off. Radar is off. I'll open the canopy, why not? Get some fresh air. And breathe in that wonderful aroma of jet fuel. And by wonderful aroma, I mean, jet fuel is just horrible. I can attest from being around it quite a lot. You will never get the smell of it out of your clothes. Anyway, canopy is open. RWR I already turned off. All our navigation and autopilot stuff can go off, which is basically this row of circuit breakers here. And we'll make sure the SAU is completely off. And yeah, all this stuff, nose cone. Yep, that can all go off. Gyro instruments, AC generator. These things can go off as well, along with the AC generator. And emergency hydraulic pumps. I think those are up here, right? Yes, so we already turned that off. Alright, so at that point the throttle can go off, so we will properly shut down the engine. And the APU can also go off, which is here. And at that point the radio and flight recorder can also go off. And I think I might have missed these before, this gun sight stuff here. Oh, yeah, I actually did. That would have gone with these gun sight items up here. See? I screwed something up once again. One day I will achieve the perfect MiG-21 shutdown. Mark my words. Anyway, at that point, fuel pumps can go off. And then the fire extinguisher go off. Oh, and I forgot the gyro instruments too. Whatever. Fire extinguisher off. DC generator can go off. Battery can go off. Inverters and battery heat can go off. And that is us completely shut down. So, right back where we started. So yeah, this has been a mission in the MiG-21 in which we bombed a vehicle repair depot in Idlib. I hope it's been at least vaguely enjoyable to watch. Do feel free to let me know any other types of missions or aircraft that you would like to see featured on this channel in the future. I'm very open to suggestions as far as that goes. Anyway, I think that's going to be about it, so toodles.